AskReddit by Akuma Matata 8080. People who work at super fancy hotels, what kind of stuff happens that management doesn't want people to know about? It's pretty common to have a dead guest. There's a standard procedure for it and we take care of it quietly. I was once waiting for an elevator in a hotel pretty early in the morning. The doors opened and reflexively I started to get on. But it was filled with EMTs, a stretcher, and the hotel's general manager. He politely suggested I wait for the next one. The patient had an oxygen mask on, with some tubes leading somewhere. Later I noticed that the ambulance pulled off without the siren and waited for a stoplight. I suspect he was dead all along, and they just made it look like he was unconscious and getting treatment. They're a weirdly popular place to commit suicide. Have a nice last meal, some nice entertainment as the swan song, then die in the comfort afforded by 5-star accommodation, safe in the knowledge that someone will find the body and they won't be left lying on the floor of their own home for 7 months before somebody notices. I think actually most people who do this, do so to avoid a loved one finding them. This is the same reason why so many do it in their cars. During housekeeping, hotels use different colored cloths to wipe your drinking glasses, cutlery, toilets and sinks to avoid contamination. They just didn't bother separating these cloths after wiping and moving to the next room. Yeah, that's just like in my office. Cleaning lady has different cloths for desks, kitchen, toilet, etc., but only one bucket with water. We take notes on your reservation profile. Everything from anniversary information to fab cocktails and foods. Add notes to pass along to other staff. My wife and I got married in 2009 and stayed a couple nights in a hotel during our honeymoon. Cut to 10 years later, we decided to redo our honeymoon for our 10th anniversary, so we stayed in all the same hotels, etc. Big shout out to Hotel Andra in Seattle. When we got to our room we have flowers and a bottle of champagne with a note about how thrilled they were we were spending our 10th anniversary there after honeymooning there as newlyweds. Turns out when we booked for our honeymoon we told them and they were able to figure out 10 years later we were there for our anniversary. If we redo this trip a third time, I will 100% make it a point to stay there again, if it's still open. The amount of sex toys left behind will blow your mind. Call me stingy, but if I put down money on gear, you'd better believe it's coming with me when I check out. I have a pretty interesting one. We know criminal enterprises have funded casinos in the past. I worked at Revel Casino, now Ocean, in Atlantic City before and after its opening. One thing they kept mentioning in our onboarding was that the triads were funding the casino. I thought it was super strange that these execs were just openly telling brand new hires. Probably a deliberate lie. You're much less likely to skim the hotel if you think the triads will come after you. $2 K per night and this place has a serious rat problem. Could be worse. My hotel has silly rats. A well-known luxury hotel and resort chain keeps a database of you. They get pictures from the internet and basically stalk you to create a profile. They put what you ordered to eat, how many towels you needed, what drinks you liked, your kids' names and birthdays, address, phone number. Everyone working in the hotel has access to this database and can see your information. It's not all good stuff either. We know you were an asshole to Jen while you were staying in London. The one I was at had to remove cameras in the lobby because bigwig guys would bring their mistresses, and no evidence was allowed to be recorded. Michael Crichton, the author, said he spent a few weeks in a high-end hotel in London. He was writing a book at the time and taped notes to a dresser to keep track of the timeline and subplots in his novel. When he returned to the hotel a few years later, he found the staff had put bits of tape on the dresser, just as he had done years during his last visit. I only work as a housekeeper at a regular 4-star hotel, but probably about 25% of people either bleed or leave shit stains on the beds. It's truly atrocious how disgusting people are, especially when they know someone else is cleaning it up. Even the wealthier guests. And the best tippers are the cleanest people. If someone fully shit on the bed and used towels to wipe, left cum on the shower door, drank heavily and puked on the carpet in multiple places, and clogged the toilet, that person will not tip at all. But the person who barely used the full bed and didn't use the shower at all and was super clean and polite, now that's a good tipper. Up until a school trip when I was probably 17, I didn't even know to tip the housekeeping staff. My family never did it and we'd been to plenty of hotels. For this school trip, the teacher in charge reminded us on the bus about 10 minutes before we arrived to the hotel to please leave a tip for the housekeepers. And if we wanted to be sure it got to the folks actually cleaning the room, to leave it under the pillow with a nice note. Front desk knows all the call girls. We give them water on the way out and sometimes call them taxis. Management doesn't like us doing it, but escorts tip well. It actually makes a lot of sense that they tip well, especially on their way out. They aren't entitled richies and probably respect the staff a lot more than most. People often commit suicide in hotels. That way their loved ones don't have to find them. Also, so someone finds them. Many people are all alone, and if they died in their home no one would know until the smell. Worked at the Luxor casino in Vegas while I waited to go to film school. People piss and masturbate under the gambling tables. I've heard casinos keep many slot machine seats in the back because of how often elderly slot jockeys choose to soil themselves instead of going to the bathroom and potentially losing their machine. True. Edit. Damn. Starting to think casinos should just put slot machines in each toilet stall. We turn a blind eye to drug dealers and prostitutes more often than you think. They hardly complain and usually prepay huge bonds happily. Also, we don't give a shit if you're having an affair. When I worked at a nice hotel, the affair one was brought up in training. Never mention a person being regular and ugly, don't mention anything about their partner or the fact it's a different partner. That became a rule after some valet basically kickstarted a very nasty divorce with a wealthy guest. My brother worked in an upscale hotel in Southern California. A morbidly obese guest sat on the toilet in his room, shattered it, got his femoral artery slashed by a chunk of broken toilet, bled to death, and flooded his room when the water line ruptured. My brother found out about it from the maintenance guy who found the body. Management made sure no other guest ever knew, including the guests in the room below the death scene who called for maintenance because water was running down their wall. I'm not even obese, but you somehow unlocked a new fear of breaking a toilet or slashing an artery. Thanks for this. We had a customer find the overnight front desk receptionist in the closet passed out with something wrapped around his neck and his dick flopped out. Was some kink play he used to do. Guy still kept his job. This is what I came here for, lol. A family member used to work at our Preland Hotel in Nashville. Yes, it's super fancy. For about a year, they had a phantom shitter. As in, random dumps left in random places. It was always in corners where security cameras didn't reach. They figured it was an employee, and had some ideas, but never knew who it was, until someone left and it stopped. This was about 20 years ago. Of course I'm sitting in a bed at this hotel right this moment, lol. My buddy was a dive instructor at a luxury resort on an island. One of the guests had a heart attack on the diving excursion, before he got off the boat. The nearest doctor couldn't come for 24 hours, so they put the corpse in a guest room and cranked up the aircon. Of course reception gave the key to the corpse room to a newly arrived honeymooning couple. They were greeted by the star of Weekend at Bernie's. Edit for clarity, DR was to sign off death, do formalities not to save life. Mauritius in the early 1990s. Gosh, this would be something I imagine on White Lotus. I worked cooking at an ultra exclusive resort in Utah, $3K $12K night. Nothing that exciting happened in my year there. I found a bottle in the tall boy, large fridge, labeled Kristen Bell's breast milk. Do not use. Most celebrities were nice, except for David Beckham. He specifically requested no staff members make eye contact with him. I had put in my 2 weeks, and was really drunk on a day off, and made a post on FB about how Gordon Ramsay was coming and I hoped he wasn't filming Kitchen Nightmares with us. I was fired within 24 hours, lol. I did get to cook fish tacos for him and his family though, and I heard he complimented the dinner kitchen crew directly, partially open kitchen, which is cool. Wait, I can kinda add to this. A guy I know used to work with a guy that is close with Beckham and he heard something very similar. Basically Bex when he stays in the US asks for a no contact style from the hotels because American hotel staff are painfully excited and he felt bothered by always on nature of the service there. My wife claims that the amount of people who shit in the shower far exceeds however many people you think shit in a shower. Edit. 1000 people have commented waffle stomp. You do not have to comment waffle stomp. Please stop giving me notifications. Okay, but this is true. And I know this because I lived in an all-girls dorm in college and our floor lost bathroom privileges because girls were shitting in the shower and trying to force use tampons down the drains. People are disgusting and will continually surprise you with how nasty they can be. Las Vegas, city of excess. People overdo it, drink, drugs, and die in their hotel rooms all the time. Same in Niagara Falls. Spend too much at the casino and die in their room or jump over. Vegas. Old guys plus hooker plus Viagra plus cocaine equals dead. So I totally think someone does in the bathroom of our suite at an upscale Vegas hotel. When we checked in the smell was horrid like roadkill but worse. We called maintenance several times but they always said they couldn't find anything. I worked in room service at a very chic hotel in Miami. One guest requested that a specific waitress, not a room service worker, always deliver him food. Not exactly sure what went on in there, but he tipped her with a big bag of weed each time, which she would promptly bring back to share with the room service staff. Calvin Klein brought his own food because he was on a special diet. He was an asshole about it too. I can confirm that the concierge will get you whatever you want. Women, drugs, Cuban cigars, guest listed at clubs. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I worked at a nice but older resort, one step above a cheap motel. A local hooker stole all the furniture from one of our rooms. It was old crappy wicker furniture. We had a local couple who were staying with us to avoid being served for a lawsuit. We weren't allowed to say that they were staying there. The police eventually showed up for them. There were several times when guests would come to the front desk claiming the maids had stolen something from their room. They would be irate, demanding we call the police. Every single time. They found the item either in their luggage or car, or their travel companions had packed the item. One gentleman claimed that he forgot his very expensive camera in his room. My manager pulled up video that showed him packing up his car, placing the camera on top of the car and driving off without realizing it. Porn shoots. And you know those carpets and upholstery ain't getting cleaned. Those carpets have such wild patterns so the stains won't show up as well. OP is a writer for White Lotus trying to come up with ideas for the new season. People spend thousands of dollars only to get drunk and show their whole ass to the point security gets involved to deal with their toddler-like behavior. Or when a housekeeper loses a key while cleaning and someone has to cancel the key because we don't know if some random person picked up the key and now has access to all guest rooms. Honestly, if staying at a hotel always deadbolt door and use night latch for this reason or if front desk issues a key to the wrong room because both are a common issue. Some luxury hotels that cater to sports teams have standing agreements that no room service is allowed after the team departs. Otherwise, the girls the athletes brought back the night before will rack up huge bills the team has to pay. Edited for clarity. I don't understand. You mean they take girls to the hotel who abuse the room service after the athletes have checked out? We have a secret way in from the parking garage that leads to the executive offices. It's up for prostitutes. These comments remind me that when I was on vacation last year, a guy, drunk, tried to do a backflip on the balcony and fell off. I wanna say it was like the 10th floor, maybe. It was pretty big talk around the city. Edit, he did not survive. Some drunk guy did chin-ups on the outside of a 35th floor balcony during a party 2 first times. All good, third time lost his grip and landed in front of the lobby. Night guard on duty never came back to work after seeing that. I used to work in accounts receivable for a couple of luxury hotels that were owned by the same LLC. We would open blocks of rooms for generic sports season about 8 months in advance. Due to high demand, these reservations had to be a 2-day Friday, Sat stay. Payment was made in full, $450-800 depending on room type. Refunds were available only if you cancelled a month before the arrival date. When I first started in the position, I discovered $63,000 worth of reservations that had been cancelled on time but were never refunded. I showed it to my manager, an absolutely incompetent woman who couldn't check in a guest if she needed to. She got back to me after discussing it with one of the owners. I can't remember how exactly she put it, but I was told to just forget the matter and not to mention it to anyone. I got a $500 cash Christmas bonus that year. Dang, $500 out of $63,000? That's not enough for my silence. Not a hotel employee, but associated with a popular convention that everyone would recognize. The convention attendees get so out of control that the hotel will only host the convention if they have a private security force. Since the private security isn't law enforcement or licensed, they do pretty much whatever it takes to keep trouble out of the public eye. Mostly it's locking people up in rooms or escorting them out of town, but they can get rough at times. But none of the convention attendees know they are there and the hotel staff pretends they don't see them. Even those who run afoul of them don't know exactly who it was that grabbed them. The run them out of town part makes me wonder about Las Vegas. So then I think the biggest convention says, there is this hotel near the SeaTac airport. People will rent rooms on the backside top floors and then suicide off the balcony. Yeah, they are not going to run that in the news. Not often, but when it happens no one knows. Suicide is rarely ever reported on the news. Lots of theft, quite a few deaths, and plenty of prostitution. We once had a lady overdose in the hot tub. That was a big cleanup. As a professional who does those cleanups, I'm uniquely qualified to say fuck that shit. Used to work as a bellhop, primarily in room service at the fanciest hotel in Copenhagen. At the time all rooms, of a certain size, had a calm basket of fruits, chocolate and a bottle of reasonable champagne waiting. The guests almost never opened the champagne, and since it was unaccounted for, I had the most outrageously well-stocked wall of champagne of anyone I knew as a young man. Went to see The Matrix when it came out. Me and my buddy both enjoyed a bottle each with that. We had valet service at our hotel, and due to huge amounts of theft and break-ins by bums in our lots, we had to go through guests' cars and take everything of value out to hid stuff in our conference room, then put it all back in before we brought their car around. Was ridiculous and we had to keep it under wraps. Wouldn't it have been more efficient to put a patrol on the lot? Oh man, I saw it all. Nudity, drugs, dead people, people pooping all over the place, prostitution, it goes on. If you ever need material for a book, a job in a hotel will do it. My story's quite tame compared to most of the ones here. When I was in college in the early 1990s, I was a banquet server at a semi-high-end place, and there was a couple who stayed in a room for several days and ordered room service for all their meals, including at least one bottle of Dom Perignon champagne, which at that time was $150 plus tip. They were otherwise unremarkable except for one thing. When they checked out, they paid their bill entirely in quarters, which they brought to the lobby in canvas bags. We guessed they most likely owned a car wash, or a laundromat. More likely robbed a car wash or laundromat. I came in expecting wild wacky stories involving sex, money and Warhammer miniatures, and all I got was drug overdose and suicide via balcony. Don't ever stay at a hotel, your chances of dying go up apparently. Don't forget human trafficking. Friend of mine recently confirmed the cliche that the cleaning staff uses one cloth for cleaning the entire hallway. That means they start at room number 1 with the furniture and stuff and end with the bathroom. Then they proceed with room number 2 and start with the furniture again. On good days they would use 2 separate racks for the room and the bathroom, but they would still start with the sink and end with the toilet, only to start with the sink in the next room again. This is so disgusting to think about that many people forget about it very fast after hearing this. Kind of a self-protection measurement of our brains, I guess. If I have to stay in a hotel, I always pack a bunch of disinfectants and will refuse to let the staff clean my room. Worked a while back at a 5-star/5 diamond resort in Vegas in room service. At that time, if you bought a bottle of booze for your room and didn't open it, including putting it out with your dishes, then it is resold. Was very frequent. I worked at a lodge that recycled table salad dressing container servings. When a customer ordered a big salad, they get a metal container of about 5 ounces of their dressing. Most people didn't use it all, it was too much. So when the table is bussed, the dressing container is brought back and the contents poured into the big gallon container of dressing. I was mortified when I was told to do this by an employee. To be certain, the owner explained to me that's how we do it here. So can you imagine what has happened to a container of blue cheese after it's been on a table for 40 minutes? My mom used to work as a cleaner in a fancy hotel. She actually ended up quitting because of how disgusted she was that 99.999% of the bedding, towels, etc. never got washed. She said there's such a time pressure to get X amount of rooms done in X amount of time that many cleaners would just remake the beds and refold the towels. That's why I make sure to shit on everything, so it gets cleaned. My buddy was a doorman at a JW Marriott hotel in DC. Mike Tyson would come in with his entourage and ask doormen to get booze, weed, hookers, and even the phone number of the cute front desk woman. Lots of $100 bills flying around. Mike would come in with 15-20 dudes. Orgies, cuckolding, prostitution. I mean, there's a free cut chair in every hotel room I've ever stayed in. There's a great book about this titled Hotel Babylon. The story was taken from a bunch of different hotel employees and their testimonials. A good follow-up about the same industry secrets but for airlines is Air Babylon, by the same author, Imogen Edwards Jones. There's a whole series showcasing lots of industries. Keep your door secured unless you want your toes to get sucked like chicken wings. And if, say my door were not secure, just leave them peeking out, or something. A friend of mine was an intern at a high-end hotel for a few months just out of college. One night she was alone at the reception desk while her more experienced co-worker slept in the back. Some guy shows up at 1 AM or something with the straightest of faces asking her for a prostitute. To her credit, she also went poker-faced and told him she'd be right back. She woke her colleague frantically and told her she had no clue whether to call the police or just run away screaming. The co-worker just told her yes, we do this too, pulled out a binder and pointed her to the escort services page. Vice did a good interview with hotel staff at certain high-end hotels. In one of the interviews they claimed elites would rent out the entire hotel by offering a premium, and they would essentially have orgies throughout the entire hotel. Don't think these are much a secret, but I worked valet at a very nice hotel. I had to give some very drunk people their car. I'm talking having trouble standing. Management said it's their property and we have to give them their vehicle. I saw it mentioned but a ton of porn was shot. Guys unload a ton of camera gear, get the waterfront penthouse. A couple done up, girls come and leave, then everyone checks out. No one stays the night even though the room is paid for, and I always found that strange, but I guess I get it. Celebrities always had aliases, but we knew they were coming. The staff at the high-end restaurants on the property were drunks and loved cocaine, but I think that's just a lot of that industry. IDK, I thought nicer restaurants might pay better and have passionate people, but now they just party all day and charge a fuck ton for food and drinks. I found a kidnapped baby in my hotel. That same group of people also were committing credit card fraud while shooting up heroin in our rooms. I mostly have worked at 4-star hotels. Not super fancy, but still nice. Have seen a dude with bad Crohn's getting drunk and shitting all over his bedroom. A swingers convention. Women getting roofied at Memorial Day parties. Richard Turner's having to go to the hospital because they had too much drugs and all cheap. Prostitutes galore. Drunk dudes with their faces covered in blood trying to find their way back to their hotels. Nashville hotels, man. So many other stories. Vegas security is the easiest thing to bypass. Wear a black shirt, say I'm here for the gig in the ballroom, which way do I go? It was surprising a mass shooting hadn't happened sooner, and it did not get better since the shooting. Experience. I worked in special events for 10 years in Vegas. That was the thing that always confused me about the Mandalay Bay shooting. People were saying how didn't they know see him bringing in bags on bags of guns, and it's just like, dude, there are so many people going in and out of those places every hour, and the security is likely more focused on looking at gamblers trying to cheat vs a guy coming in with a larger than normal amount of bags.